Right now, your savings account is losing money, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that shows up on your bank statement, but in a very real, very measurable way. The money you have saved is worth less today than it was a year ago, and your bank is not going to tell you that. In fact, your bank is counting on you not knowing it. This video explains exactly how that works and what you can actually do about it. We have spent 8 videos building a complete picture of how the modern monetary system works. Banks create money from nothing. The Fed controls the price of money. Inflation transfers wealth from cash holders to asset owners. Nixon removed the gold constraint in 1971. The 2008 crisis was bailed out with money printing. And every time new money enters the system, the Cantillon effect ensures it benefits some people before others. Now we bring it all down to the most personal level, your savings account. The thing most people were taught is safe, the thing most financial advisors still call the responsible choice, and the thing that, under the current monetary system, is quietly destroying your wealth. Most people think a savings account is a place where their money sits safely and earns a small return. That is technically true. But here is what actually happens when you deposit money in a savings account. The bank takes your money. It lends most of it out at a higher interest rate than it pays you. That gap, the difference between what they charge borrowers and what they pay savers, is how banks make their money. In 2024, the average savings account in America paid about 0.5% annually. The average credit card charged about 21%. The bank borrows from you at 0.5%. It lends to someone else at 21%. That is a 20.5 percentage point spread. Every dollar in your savings account is generating roughly $42 in revenue for your bank, and they give you back 50 cents per hundred. But the spread is not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is inflation. Here is the math that your bank does not show you. Your savings account pays you 0.5%. Inflation runs at 3%. Your real return, the return after accounting for the loss of purchasing power, is negative 2.5%. You are not earning money. You are losing it, just slowly enough that you do not notice. Let us make this concrete. You save $10,000 in a savings account. After 1 year at 0.5%, you have $10,050. Feels good, right? But if inflation was 3% that year, the things you could buy with $10,000 a year ago now cost $10,300. Your $10,050 buys less than your original $10,000 did. You lost purchasing power even though your balance went up. This is the illusion of saving. Numbers going up while real value goes down. And it happens every single year that inflation exceeds your savings rate, which is most years. Over a 10-year period with 3% average inflation and 0.5% savings rate, you lose roughly 25% of your purchasing power. 1/4 of your savings gone, not to a crash, not to a scam, to the slow, silent math of inflation minus interest. You might wonder why savings accounts pay so little. The answer is the Federal Reserve. The Fed sets the federal funds rate, as we covered in video 4. When the Fed keeps rates low, banks can borrow money cheaply from each other. They do not need to compete aggressively for your deposits. They do not need to offer you a high rate to attract your savings. After 2008, the Fed dropped rates to near zero and kept them there for nearly a decade. From 2009 to 2015, the federal funds rate was effectively zero. Savings accounts paid almost nothing. This was deliberate. Woo. Low rates punish savers and reward borrowers. Low rates push people out of savings accounts and into riskier assets. Stocks, real estate, investments that generate returns but also carry risk. The Fed's policy after 2008 was designed explicitly to push capital into the economy and away from sitting in savings accounts. It worked. Asset prices soared. The wealthy who already owned assets got wealthier, and the people who dutifully put their money in savings accounts watched their purchasing power quietly erode. So, what should you do instead? First, understand what savings accounts are actually for. They are not wealth-building tools. They are liquidity tools. Keep 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account for emergencies. That money needs to be accessible immediately. The loss of purchasing power is the price of that accessibility. Accept it. Beyond that emergency fund, sitting in a savings account is a choice to slowly lose money. The alternatives are not mysterious. Treasury bonds now pay meaningful interest, often beating inflation in high-rate environments. Index funds tracking the broad stock market have historically returned 7 to 10% annually after inflation over long periods. Real estate, as we have discussed, tends to track inflation or beat it. I-bonds, inflation-protected savings bonds issued by the U.S. Treasury, are specifically designed to preserve purchasing power. None of these are without risk. A savings account has essentially no risk of nominal loss, but it has almost guaranteed risk of real loss. The question is not whether you want to take risk, it is which risk you prefer: the visible risk of market fluctuations, or the invisible risk of inflation silently destroying your purchasing power. The savings account is one of the great misdirections of personal finance. It feels responsible. It feels safe. Your bank markets it as the smart choice, and under a gold standard, where inflation was constrained. It might have been. But in the fiat monetary system that has existed since 1971, inflation is always present, sometimes high, sometimes moderate, almost never zero, and a savings account that pays less than inflation is not saving, it is losing slowly. Understanding this does not mean you need to become a sophisticated investor overnight. It means you need to understand what your money is actually doing while it sits in that account. Now you do. Subscribe if you want to keep following where the money actually goes. Because next time we look at the most powerful financial concept most people have never heard of, and it might change how you think about everything.